devotion has a religious tone to it, like being devoted to a particular saint, devoted to a personal God, devoted to a guru, devoted to a theology, however one envisions that. And there is a branch of yoga, bhakti yoga, that follows this path of devotion to something with the purpose of sort of drawing us out from our personal concerns, drawing us out and away from this sense of personal separate self, and through just the power of love and devotion, giving ourselves to something that we imagine is larger than us, but importantly, outside of us. And so it's, in a sense, it's outward looking, and it's a valid path. And many people have pursued that path over the centuries, and that's fine. But it's also a path that can lead to a sense of being separate from something that is better, other than me. There's also a way, especially when it's interpreted as devotion to a guru, as embodiment of the divine. It can also lead, and has led, to circumstances that unfortunately occur more than we would hope, where there's becomes this dependence on another. So that's really a misinterpretation of the sense of devotion, but it's still viewing it as something where we direct our attention to something other than what's already here. Okay, so that's how it's commonly used. That's not how we're going to talk about it tonight. So I wanted to talk about it in a much more practical, sort of at-home kind of way. And that is that everybody, I believe, is really just desiring a sense of well-being for oneself, however that's interpreted. Might be a sense of peace, a sense of safety, a sense of general contentment or happiness, something in that sphere where we feel good about ourselves and life, and I think most people desire that. So we have that in common. How we go about that, how we imagine that we're going to achieve that, can be vastly different among people, and when viewed from the outside, can have all kinds of different results, often unsuccessful at meeting that sort of common goal for people. So whether we decide that we need to control other people or invade other countries, or eliminate certain nationalities, or however we think we need to do to achieve our own level of comfort and safety, like I say, the strategies for achieving that might be totally dysfunctional. But I think it's helpful to see that the underlying motivation is not unreasonable. Just a sense of wanting to feel okay about oneself. Right? How that's played out can be vastly different. But if we see it from that sense of just trying to make sense of the world in my own direct experience, then we can take away the concept of right and wrong, should and shouldn'ts, and just see that all of this is strategies for sort of trying to come to grips with what this life is about. So if we can see that, then it's helpful in the sense that we get away from thinking, I should be devoted to this or that. Right? Then the question is, for what purpose? For whose benefit? Right? And there's an easy way to test what we're actually devoted to. We can say we're devoted to this or that, but there's a test to find out what we're actually devoted to. And that is, it's a very simple test. It's how do we spend our time? If we say that we're, devoted to discovering our deepest nature, however we want to define that, but we spend all our time on the internet, following the latest political nuances or getting upset about coworkers and engaged in gossip and drama, or becoming infatuated with success or busyness, then that's how we tell how we spend our time and energy is how we demonstrate what we're really devoted to. And if we can see that, then we can decide that is that what I want? And it's okay to want whatever you want. It's no problem, right? But my suggestion is we choose to devote ourselves to whatever we want, but do it consciously, not just fall into it out of momentum and conditioning and so on. So it's fine to make whatever decisions you make in terms of what you want out of life. I'm good with that. But I suggest just doing it, making that choice consciously. And this is just a little homework thing if you feel to do it, but one of the ways that we can refine what we really want is to sit down with a pen and paper and make two lists and imagine yourself, maybe decades from now, with time running out and looking back on your life. And the two headings for the list, one would be, I wish I had done more of this. And the other one was, I wish I had done less of that. And then if you're really inclined, I'd suggest that you read both lists slowly out loud and see if they're true. I mean, because you can tell when you're saying it out loud that whether you actually mean what you say or not. But if what we say is that I want more of this and less of that, not because we should, right? And not because, well, if I do more of that, then, maybe my chances of getting enlightened or making it to heaven are improved. So it's not a strategy, it's just what I really want. And feel into that. And we know if we read it out loud, we know if we're trying to fool ourselves or not. There's a sort of an honesty meter in there somewhere that, if we say it out loud and it just doesn't feel authentic, then we can take measure of that. So then if we've gotten to that point and realize that this is what I really want out of life, and this is how I'm spending my time, yes, there's a certain momentum, there's a certain habits that have to be challenged. I'm not saying that's easy to do, but at least if we see what we really truly want, there can be some clarity there. It gives us a focus. Right? So then the question, if we understand that's what I really want, so the only remaining question at that point is, do I have the personal desire? Do I have the devotion to actually pursue that? Actually find out for myself what this life is about, if that's the question for you. Because that's sort of the point at which the spiritual journey shifts. For a long time, it can be this outward searching, looking here and there, trying this path and that path, this teacher and that, hoping for this experience or that, always to the outside. But there's a point of sort of turning around, which is really turning around and coming back to oneself and recognizing that it can feel, sort of selfish almost in a way. Like, okay, I'm just going to let the world be as it is for a while, but right now I am going to find out what it is that's happening here. Because we can have all of these experiences, all these adventures, sensations, ups and downs, And yet, at some point, the question might arise, who is all of that happening to? Who is doing all of that? Who's doing all that seeking? And when we dare to ask that question, the search is no longer outward. It turns around and begins to look inward in earnest. So we get to that point when we've, made enough forays into the world to know that there's that sort of the payoff of abiding peace and happiness just won't be found there. It won't be found there because the world of form is not a place of abidance. It's a place of impermanence, everything always changing. So if we're looking for something of completeness, permanent fulfillment, everlasting peace, but we're looking for it in the world of impermanence, which is everything that we see, taste, touch, hear, experience, then we're looking in the wrong direction. So at some point, it may occur to us to realize that it won't be found on the outside, that it's time to look here. And by here, I don't mean psychology and what happened in childhood and all of that. If that's your interest, that's fine. But what I'm talking about is something far more fundamental than anything that has occurred. And that is what has occurred to. And we can say, well, me, this body-mind organism, that's who it happened to. But there's something more fundamental than that, just this capacity to be aware of whatever this body-mind is experiencing. So when we come back to that, then it's an entirely a different question when we start looking at what is this fundamental nature of our beingness. So now we're no longer trying to find the needle in the haystack and all the life's possibilities. We're just turned around and focused on who am I? What am I? What is this deepest sense of me? Right. So at this point, it doesn't matter whether we meditate a lot or not much at all, but what is important is holding that inquiry in devotion, right? Where it becomes the most important thing in our life. It's no longer just something that we fit in on the weekends or, schedule on our computer organizer that we're going to think about this and, for 15 minutes tonight. It's something that just occurs to us over and over during the course of the day, no matter what else is going on, that this is the most important thing. It becomes in a sense, it becomes our North Star. It is what guides our efforts. It's no longer anything to do with I should do this or I should meditate more or, I'd be a better person if. None of that. It's just like, almost like, being in love for the first time where you can't get it out of your head. It's just like it's taken over your life. There's a urgency to it. And what this devotion really means, it's not a one-time, sort of gearing oneself up for one, blast off. It's really a question of consistency, a question of, in a sense, fearlessness. I mean, even in the face of fear, to be willing to move forward anyway, to really push through that, be willing to see whatever needs to be seen. And so this sense of, Nisargadatta talks about it almost as a homing instinct, like salmon returning to their stream of origin with just that sort of single-mindedness of effort. Right? It's not that we don't do other things or can't ever watch TV, or I don't mean that. I mean that it becomes the most important thing to find out. Like, I'm doing all these things to live my life, but the question is, who is it that's doing all of that? What is that? What's that about? And then when that becomes our sincere, burning question, Nisargadatta again calls it earnestness. That authentic desire. Not because we should or there's some payoff down the road. All of that's mind stuff. It's just this very deep movement that we may not even know why, or we certainly won't know where it leads to. We can't know that. But what we can do is give ourselves to this sense of almost like I just have to know. Right? I just have to know what this is about. I don't know whether it'll do me any good. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. I don't know if I'll benefit from it or not. Except I just have to find out for myself. Not take anybody else's word for it. Just in my own direct experience, what's actually true, what's actually living this life. And the good news is that it's possible to discover that. People that have made the journey before have left breadcrumbs along the trail and, suggestions, this is a fruitful area to look. That's all, can be all very helpful, but nobody else can do it for you. It's fine to sort of hear pointers and decide for yourself whether they resonate for you or not, but it's we all have to make the journey alone. And the good news is, once taken, no one can take it away from us. Once discovered, no one can give it to us, and no one can take it away from us. And it's self-authenticating. We don't need anybody's pat on the back or certificate on the wall. When it's truly seen, it is, if we're being authentic and honest with ourselves, it is known for ourselves.